In a lucid dream, you can interact with things that seem as real as this. You know, in a lucid dream, I can touch the lucid dream chair, and it will feel like this. It will have the same texture as this material. I can touch my arm, and I can even notice the hairs on my arm. So I see that the human mind has a huge potential to create dreamlike illusion. This means that the next time I'm in the waking state, whatever that means, I can also interact with this dream with a similar sense of flexibility. One of the trainings is to walk through walls in your lucid dreams. Now, for ages, I thought this was a practice so eventually you could walk through walls in this state.
Right.
What I now realize is the reason my teacher was training me to do that was because nothing seems to be more solid than a brick wall. So if in the lucid dream state, you can train yourself to walk through a brick wall, you're creating a new habit of mind that says things that seem to be solid are not always so. So the next time you confront the brick wall of your own self-doubt in the waking state, the brick wall of your own poor me in the waking state, the brick wall of your own bull in the waking state, so too can you walk through that and see it as flexible as it was in the lucid dream. And this gives us a sense of humor.
It does, and not only that, you can practice.
Yeah.
There's nothing but time and opportunity in the dream world to practice and to work things through. Even, we'll talk about this later, because as you say, 99% of, in your experience, 99% of what we encounter is ourselves in one degree or another, but there's still that 1%.
Yeah.
And we still do connect with others, and we can practice and play out into the future with ourselves and with others. So it's a wonderful experimental ground.
Yes.
Right? And that should be reflected in our daily life as one big, I think Buckminster Fuller said that once he was suicidal at one point. He had failed at some things, and finally he realized, but life is just an experiment. I'm just going to make everything an experiment. Major contributions to this planet. But it was that attitude that it's all an experiment.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the notion of taking the lucid dream state into the waking state. So let's talk about where lucid dreaming happens on a physiological level. We'll get into a little bit of the science of it, the prefrontal cortex and so forth, and how we can start tapping into or waking that part up, and then we'll go into the Tibetan dream yoga.
Absolutely. So your question there about training, using the lucid dream state as a rehearsal space for the waking state. That's been talked about in Tibetan Buddhism for thousands of years, but now we have science to back it up.
Talk about some of it.
Okay. So when you are having a non-lucid dream, so your normal everyday dreams where you're dreaming away but don't know you're dreaming, the back part of the brainstem visual cortex, highly activated. But the front part of the brain, especially the prefrontal cortex, is deactivated. Now, the prefrontal cortex, scientists believe, is where your sense of self resides, your sense of agency, your sense of I am Charlie having experience is around the prefrontal cortex.
Right, and that's where a lot of beta activity happens, and it's where we go about our life, kind of a lot of left brain activity and so forth as well.
Now, in a non-lucid dream, that is deactivated, which is why you can happily dream that you're the Queen of Egypt and you believe it. It's only when we wake up, the prefrontal cortex switches back on and we go, oh, I'm not really the Queen of Egypt, I was dreaming I was the Queen of Egypt. Right. On that basis, when we have a lucid dream, we now know what part of the brain is activated. It is, of course, the prefrontal cortex. So you're dreaming away, you're the Queen of Egypt, and then suddenly prefrontal cortex becomes engaged. Ah, I'm not really the Queen of Egypt, I'm having a lucid dream about being the Queen of Egypt. Now, once that happens, not only is your sense of self engaged, so you can decide what to do, but once the prefrontal cortex is activated, neuroplasticity becomes activated too. And this is where it gets really interesting. Neuroplasticity, of course, the phenomena of the brain to rewire itself in favor of a repeated action or habit.
Yes.
Neurons that fire together, wire together, the classic thing, right? Once you get lucid, what you do in the lucid dream, how you spend the lucid dream, actually rewires your brain in favor of that activity. This means that you can learn in your lucid dreams. So interestingly, the first people to put funding into this were the German Sports Science Association at Heidelberg University.
Yes.
Because they thought, well, if you can actually retrain your brain through lucid dreaming, what if we teach it to athletes? So they did a big study, over 100 athletes involved. They whittled it down to about 20 who could learn lucid dreaming, spend a few months training so they could have these lucid dreams almost at will. They put them into the brain scanners, they gave them all the psychological tests. Then once they got lucid, out of all the amazing things they could do in their lucid dream, like meeting your inner child and integrating trauma, like working with stressful situations in the daytime and reframing them through your dreams, like meeting Godhead, meeting Buddha in your lucid dreams. No. They were told to do squats. So literally in the lucid dream, they're dropping doing squats, right?
Build those quadriceps.
Exactly. The next day, they put them back in the brain scanners, they give them all the psychological tests. Long story short, they found that they could increase their capacity to do squats by training in the lucid dream. Some of them actually had increased muscle mass due to the training in the lucid dream. Now, of course, it's not that their muscles were growing in the lucid dream because they were just imagining doing it, but they were strengthening the neural pathways, which meant in the waking state, when they did squats, they could do more of them, and this led to increased muscle mass. So this is squats, right? They did the same for press-ups and stuff like that. But so what? We can get a nice bum and tum if we work out in the lucid dream. Imagine if we practice our meditation in the lucid dream and create those neural pathways. Imagine if we practice loving kindness, if we practice compassion, if we practice being the person that we know we could be, if we could just remove that block of fear that stops us being that person. That's how we can really retrain our brains through lucid dreaming.